So yeah, two of my favorite clubs, guys, utility and hybrid. Over the years, manufacturers have basically diced with these words to basically just push particular products. So some manufacturers will go back between utility and some will go back between hybrid. But for anyone who's new to the game and is trying to understand this, we're going to get into these in just a little bit of more detail to explain the differences between both styles of clubs, right? Start with the utility, right? Utility for me is basically a drive and iron style club. Now, you can get these from lofts as low as 17 degrees, depending on the manufacturer, and you might be able to get up as far as maybe 26 degrees, which is like maybe in around what a 5 iron would be these days, okay? It's almost like a slightly bigger iron. So you can see this, it's a slightly wider profile. It's not to be sniffed at, because I can assure you some of these club heads are actually quite good. When you actually set them up and hold them, the top line is a little bit thick, but not too bad. And the one thing you'll always notice about these clubs, guys, is that they also have a thing that's called offset. And what that means is, if I just hold that there, you can see that the face of the club is actually maybe a couple of mil behind the shaft itself, okay? That's an anti-slice mechanism. Offset came out years ago, and it's really helped a lot of recreational golfers, because for those who struggle to square the club face, it helps you just for a microsecond be able to deliver that club head a bit more squarely, okay? Better players don't like offset because they like to be able to manipulate the ball, and we'll talk about that at a later time, okay? But utility, once again, tends to be a stainless steel construction. They also come with what's known as a hollow body design, so you can see that's slightly wide, but the thing is that would be a welded face into a cast body, and you can almost see there's a small little black dot in the toe there, and what that is, that's where they inject the polymer into this to make this sound acoustically better when the golfer goes to use it. So because the metals in these faces tend to be quite harsh and hard, they're designed for the ball to fly off the face with speed, but sometimes they don't sound too good. So what they do is they'll inject the polymer into the head, and that will actually change how the club sounds to make it a bit more attractive, okay? What you found over the years with golfers in particular, if you walked into a store, is that there are some manufacturers who really try to appease your ego, and what they do is they'll sell these in some really silly low lofts, and they'll compound it further by putting shafts in which are nearly totally unplayable. And you think, oh yeah, better players club, but you go out and you can't get the ball off the deck, okay? If you're going to use a utility, try to use it for shorter par 4s or long par 3s, depending on the trajectory that you want. Like I said, is most of the better players that we see with these, they're trying to hit these off the tee to get the ball to run, because they will usually give a low spin characteristics, which means they can run out, and it's a much more attractive option for putting the ball into the correct part of the fairway, okay? You can hit these from the fairway, but truthfully, you need to be getting up over lofts of 21, maybe even up as far as 24 or 26 degrees if you get them. And you also have to have the right shaft. Once again, coming back to that discussion around the right shaft, you have to have the right shaft in this club to suit your shot in terms of shape and trajectory, in terms of how high you want to hit it. So maybe you want something a little bit heavier just to get through it, but maybe you need it to be softer to promote a high launch. And then you might be the opposite. You might be a guy who wants something that's heavy but stiff because you're purposely trying to keep the ball down, okay? So, slightly different profile, guys, and slightly different club in terms of how you use it, okay? So you compare the profile to that club, you can see it's slightly wider. That means the center of gravity is further back. So the CG, if it's further back in a design like that, is going to drive the ball into the sky with the correct shaft. Okay, I'm going to add that again. Hybrids, like I said, are quite versatile. We've built these maybe down as low as 18 degrees. Now, what we find is with 18-degree hybrids, believe it or not, they can be quite tricky to use, right? So it's important that you have the right shaft. Okay, so if you're getting down to really low lofted hybrids, they tend to be designed for the stronger golfer. So what you notice is, like, there are some brands that we do, and they have very discrete profiles. So it almost looks like somewhere between the driving iron and, say, your conventional hybrid head, right? But for the recreational golfer, you're going to have a lot of success with anything that's between 20 degrees right up to about maybe 26 degrees, okay? So once again, comparable lofts in terms of utility, but because the head is slightly bigger and the center of gravity is further back, and they tend to be a more sleek profile, they're much more versatile off the deck. So if you have a shot, say, around 200 yards, maybe 180 to 220, it's a lot easier to pick this off the grass without trying to hit down on the ball too much, okay? If you wanted to take a little bit off the shot, maybe hit down 1 or 2 degrees, and what you do is you'll create slightly negative attack angle. It will just decrease your ball speed a little bit, but will also increase your spin rate, which means it'll climb a little bit higher and it'll spin a bit more, which means you can take a little bit off, be versatile that way, and get the ball to land more quickly. But if you wanted to add a little bit of distance to this, the trick to this then would be to actually come in shallow, use all of the loft, don't have any sort of negative attack angle, just try and be 0-0 if you can in terms of attack angle. This will fly higher then with less spin, so you get a bit of club more, and it will just same thing. It will land a bit more softly. Okay, so there are things that you can do with that. I've seen situations where people will come in and buy utilities which they've bought, say, in stores or what have you, and if the shaft is incorrect, two things will happen with a club like this. You'll either get a launch that is much lower and going out to the right, which is not what hybrids are designed for, because hybrids are actually engineered to go to the left. Okay, so if you're seeing a situation where your ball's going low and to the right, the shaft is wrong immediately. Okay. Second thing is, if you're seeing your hybrid, I mean, shoot through the stratosphere. So if you're not seeing like, if you're seeing anything over 20 degrees, that's not right. These are usually about 14, 15, maybe 16 degrees of launch, depending on your attack angle. Okay. If you top it, the shaft is not right, because what it means is if you're coming in, shaft could be flexing and you're hitting down. And what you'll also find about hybrids is that if you buy them sometimes in a store through a professional, is that they will typically push them with more recreational style shafts, which are designed for much older golfers with slower swing speeds. And unfortunately, the shafts tend to be very, very soft and flexible. And you can find yourself, like I said, topping them or spin rates that are far too high. So once again, your hybrid should be going at an optimum flight in the direction that you want. And you're looking at spin anywhere between maybe about 3,800 right up to about 5,000 RPM with this, okay? Compared to the utility, like we said, maybe 2,000 to about 3,000 RPM, because you're trying to advance the ball and you're trying to keep your dispersion to a minimum. This is obviously, you've got the forgiveness aspect because the center of gravity is to the back and you're trying to hit the ball higher. So with that type of spin, you're controlling the ball. It keeps it in a relatively straight line, but it's just flying a bit higher, okay? So bear that in mind. I hope you found these interesting. Discussion around this is quite interesting, like I said, because it's important that when you go to choose the club, think about the course that you're playing. Do you have a lot of maybe shorter par fives where you don't need to hit a fairway wood, and you have a lot of 200-yard shots where you're looking trying to get the ball to land a bit more softly? Hybrid is the way to go. Consequently, like I said, you may have shorter par fours where you don't need to hit the driver off the tee, and you keep thinking, I wish I had some sort of utility club, like a 200-yard or 220-yard club that I can hit the ground and it will just release out for me into a safer part of the fairway, as opposed to seeing a driver go into the trees or into the bush or something like that, in which case then the utility is the club to go to, okay? I can't highlight once again, guys, shaft selection is important when it comes to these, because it can change how these clubs actually behave, and it's not a nice feeling to spend all that money and see these clubs do what they're not designed to be doing, okay? So once again, this is where you come to a professional club maker, just to eliminate that risk, okay? Pleasure talking to you all again. Like I said, if you need to contact me, please reach out to peter@precisefitting.com, and any of the telephone numbers listed on our website, which is also being updated, so please take a look, and I hope you like it. Also, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube, so Precision Fit Golf, where you'll find a lot of the latest content with regards to professional club making and how it can improve your game as a golfer, okay? Once again, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.